Hello everyone. I'm so thrilled to be here with you today, and I want to start off by thanking the Jane Addams Children's Book Award Committee so much for all of their work in judging the award this year. I know that this was not an easy year to add the committee work to your already busy plates, so I just appreciate you so much. The list that you put together this year is incredible, and it is an honor to be listed alongside authors whose work I admire, people like Aida Salazar and Veronica Chambers, people who have been shining a light in our industry for so long, like Cheryl and Wade Hudson, Alex Gino, Jason Reynolds, and so many more. I am humbled and grateful to be in their company. I believe that A Wish in the Dark is the first fantasy novel to be given the award for older readers, and that makes me so very happy because the books that turned me into a lifelong reader are fantasy books. I always have loved magical and fantastical stories. And fantasy stories have a long legacy of tackling important social topics in their pages. Sometimes the best way to look at problems in our own world is to examine it in a completely different and magical world. Now, for all of my love of fantasy, when I was a young child, books that I had access to were very limited to a white Western perspective. I did not read books by authors who represented me until I was out of high school. And I certainly didn't ever read fantasy that was set in an Asian place. So this is a double thrill to have A Wish in the Dark honored because it is set in a world that is inspired by a magical Thailand. I thought that I would give you just a little bit of background about the book and the inspiration for the book. If you've read A Wish in the Dark, you know that it is a twist on a, quote, classic novel, Victor Hugo's Les Miserables. And this is a book that I encountered for the first time when I was 10 years old. I did not read it when I was 10 years old. That would have been amazing. Actually, my mom was reading it, and we were on a family trip to Thailand, and she would read the book during the day and then recap it for me, summarize it for me every night. And then I read it for myself when I was in high school. This is a book that got me to ask a lot of questions about society, about justice, about the labels that we put on each other and the dangers of those labels. When I was in high school, we were not using the term privilege in the way that we are now, but this is a book that very much got me to examine my own privilege and my own assumptions that I make about other people. I would say that it was a transformative book for me. Now, if we flash forward to 2016, when I was sitting down to write a new middle grade novel, I had been thinking about exploring some of the themes in Les Miserables, but I just wasn't really sure how to go about it. I'm not certain when it clicked to me to set the world in a magical Thailand, but once I did, everything really started to flow. Maybe it was me remembering that trip when I was 10 years old, when we were in Thailand and I was hearing the story. I want to share a photograph with you. This is one of my favorite pictures of my dad and his brother and sister and other family members. This is taken at the airport when he was immigrating from Thailand to the United States. I have always loved this picture because it's just so 60s, like his suits and the Thai silk dresses with the beehive hairdos. And when I was writing A Wish in the Dark, the soundtrack that I put together was very much like hits from the swingin' 60s that my dad would listen to. His stories of growing up in Bangkok were always ones that I loved to hear. They were so magical to me. They were like my own version of fairy tales. At the time when my dad was a kid, Bangkok looked very much like the cover of this book. Bangkok, it's a city on the river where the river is the beating heart of the city. And it's very much still that way today in many ways. And so I set out to write the story of Bong and Nok. And Bong is very much based on my dad and his friends who would just run wild up and down the canals in Bangkok. And Nok is a girl who questions her own privilege and who starts to ask big questions about her own role in perpetuating inequality. And she is very much based on myself. People often ask me, what do you hope young readers take away from your book? What do you hope people learn when they read your book? I hope that they ask questions. I hope they have discussions. You know, I've been very lucky to have author visits, virtual author visits with schools during this time. And we had these fantastic discussions. You know, the kids are asking such pointed, brilliant questions, and they have such great ideas. They're really thinking deeply about these topics. As an author, I don't think of myself as a teacher. I don't think it's my role to teach my readers anything. What I want to do is write stories that empower them to follow their own best instincts and to follow their own innate goodness that I think that they have. Like Father Chum, who's a character in the book, I believe that we all have a light that's inside of us, and that light is compassion. And I believe that books, such as the books that we're here to honor today, are the fuel that lets that light burn bright. And I want to thank you all so much for all the work you do. You are shining a light for all of us all the time, and I'm grateful for you. Thank you so much.